Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
The following is a statement from the Government of Grenada on diplomatic appointments. The Government of Grenada categorically denies the allegations which were recently made in the media regarding the CBI program, as well as the issuance of diplomatic passports. The government further states that no one has made any campaign contribution in order to be appointed as an ambassador. Neither is there any requirement for individuals to make campaign contributions in order to be considered for an appointment. Citizenship by investment programs are well-established investment programs internationally, which are maintained by many countries, including the US, Canada, and the UK. Grenada's CBI program has been ranked as one of the best-run programs by the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and other financial institutions. There were many unfortunate pronouncements which have led to confusion following a recent well-publicized television documentary, which leaves the erroneous impression that the issuing of diplomatic passports is a natural extension of or in any way related to the CBI program. The two are governed separately and have their own rules for implementation under clear policy guidelines. Furthermore, the Government of Grenada has a clear and distinct policy which has been in place and implemented by all administrations since 1974, which governs the appointment of diplomats. That policy is consistent with international norms that have been set out under the Vienna Convention, which governs these matters. In fact, it is important to note that a diplomatic passport does not automatically grant immunity to the holder. The only appointments that are subject to diplomatic immunity according to the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations are officials who are accredited by the receiving state. Ambassadors at large, as per international protocol, while they benefit from certain courtesies, have no diplomatic immunity anywhere since they are not accredited by a receiving state. All persons considered for appointments must A. be of good reputation and proven competence, B. not have any criminal record, C. possess the skills necessary to function in the designated role, and D. submit to rigorous and satisfactory due diligence checks prior to and at any time during the appointments. It is categorically false that diplomatic appointments are for sale and have in any way been bought by non-nationals who currently serve the interests of Grenada overseas. Any attempt to tarnish the name of Grenada and the people of Grenada can be rebutted with facts. Even the Al Jazeera documentary admitted in several instances that they were only making allegations and, by their own admission, stated several times that they could find no facts to substantiate their claims. The government of Grenada reassures the nation that its diplomatic appointments, as well as its CBI program, are conducted with the highest levels of integrity.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Keep sending out good signals. Pay attention to your audience. Let your light shine. What's for you will be for you. With the real ones rooting for you. Just let your energy introduce. You can say I don't know why. So we'll worry about that next man's try. Try to match up on next man's life. Fix your life. And as soon as I start working hard, you want to make something must be wrong, your man. I don't come here for that. All your help me. But I don't see as I'm telling you.
Good morning to all of you joining us here on Hard Talk Grenada. A special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 WE Noise Radio coming out of Brooklyn, New York. To those of you joining us on the live, a special good morning to you. Remember to like and share the live video. Get everybody involved in the conversation. It's always a pleasure being here with you, regardless of, the rainy, sulky day that it is. I mean, it's still a beautiful day in the Spice Isle, and we must be, of course, thankful for life. Thankful that we were able to get up and get going this morning. Thankful for all of the wonderful things that's going on in our lives. We have to be thankful. It is the Christmas season. I'm not hearing much Christmas music going along the airwaves. Just yesterday I was talking about that. I want to hear some more parang, some more local parang music on our airwaves. I going up yesterday evening, and I hearing specky and I hearing soca, and while that's good because we're supporting local, we still have to be mindful that it is the season and we want to ensure that we get everybody in the mood for Christmas. So we have a lot of things to talk about this morning. Of course, I wasn't here with you yesterday. I apologize. Like I've said before, University of the West Indies, taking up a lot of my time. But of course, the semester is over. Exams are over. I feel light and free. Of course, congratulations to all of my colleagues who would have been through it, and all of you out there studying. We know we have a lot of students out there studying, and it really is a difficult task, I'm telling you, especially when you are studying part-time and trying to manage your life and trying to manage your job, and, it really is hard. So to all of you out there doing it, congrats to you. It's not an easy road. It's not an easy thing to do. So, We want to keep them in our prayers and our thoughts and give them as much support as we can. There's a lot that I want to talk about this morning, but I'm going to try my best not to, to take it slow and not to rush through it, because I know sometimes I get a little bit passionate about a lot of the things that happen in Grenada, and we are a very emotional people. I've gathered that much. We are a very emotional people. We feel passionately about a lot of things. A lot of us for the right reasons, a lot of us for the wrong reasons. Nonetheless, we are very emotional. And sometimes it's wise for us to just take a step back from our emotions and look at a lot of things from a logical standpoint. And this morning I was listening to a radio program, and sometimes I believe that I'm not biased. That's my belief. I believe that I try my best to bring the message to the people, the good news to the people, because I think there are a lot of bad news bringers out there, and I don't want to be one of those people. You know, I want to bring the good news to let people know what's happening in Grenada, apart from the negativity that is being spread. There are a lot of good things happening in Grenada, and there are a lot of people in the diaspora with a lot of wrong impressions of what's going on in Grenada. And sometimes we are very responsible. We are very responsible for some of the things that is being portrayed about Grenada, you know. And I was listening to a radio program this morning, and sometimes we must try to be very objective when we address the people of Grenada, when we sit on public fora and say things that are opinions, right? Because sometimes that's just all that it is. And that's why I try my best to, when something is my opinion, state that it's just my opinion. It's just a belief that I have. And sometimes our opinions are not facts, and our opinions are sometimes driven by emotion. So we have to be careful in the things that we say to, put out there. And I'm saying this in reference to the recent issue of the Molyneux Road. And the opinion of a lot of people is that the government is being reactive. Now, let's just be very clear. In whatever stage that the government addresses this issue, it would be reactive. In whatever stage. So whether they had addressed it when there was a small crack in the road, whether they had addressed it when the road completely slides off, whether they have addressed it now as they're doing, it would be reactive. Right? Because we are never going to know about a situation until something happens. Because for years, people have been driving up and down on that road. Right? And it's only until something happened that it has been brought to our attention that there is an issue. So the government can't react beforehand. They can't just go and say, well, we believe that the road is going to slip, so we're going to dig it up. We're going to close it, dig it up, and put a wall. Right? So in whatever stage the government addresses this issue, it will be reactive. Let's just start there. For all of the people out there talking about, oh, the government is reactive, they're waiting until somebody die before they do something. And in whatever stage, the road didn't have to crack before it slid off. It could have just slid off. Would it then be the government's fault? And I'm not saying that the government shouldn't address it or should not have addressed it at an earlier time. That's not the issue. The issue and what we need to focus on at this point is the fact that it is being addressed. It is being fixed. No lives have been lost, and we are grateful. And the issue is being addressed. That is what we need to focus on. You see, sometimes we spend too much time focusing on the negative side of a situation and not putting enough emphasis on the positive. The positive being, no lives have been lost. No properties have been damaged. And the issue is being addressed. We may not agree with the timeliness of the issue, of how the issue is being addressed. We may not agree with how the government chooses to address it. But the fact of the matter is, it's being addressed. Let's just start there. And some of us, we don't care about the process. We don't care about what needs to be done in order for this to happen. We don't care about how much it's going to cost the country. We don't care about how the money is going to come. We don't care about any of these things. All we care about is the fact that this is an opportunity for some of us to condemn the government. And that's just how I see it. That's my personal opinion of the matter. And as I speak to you right now, the road has been closed. As I speak to you right now, the Minister of Infrastructure is up there with his engineers looking at the best way in which this issue can be resolved. Because it's not just about going up there, digging up the road and putting a wall, right? An assessment has to be done as to first why there is slippage, right? How deep does this slippage run? How deep does the wall have to go? How much work needs to be done? It's not about just going and plastering a wall and filling it back up and then the road is all smooth, and then in 2-3 months or a year or 2 years we have a little bit of seismic activity and some more rain, and then the land starts to slip again. It's not just cut and paste as we would like it to be. So we have to be careful. We have to be mindful. I try my best not to be biased, but I look at a lot of things objectively, as we all should, and from all different angles, as we all should. So I'm encouraging all of us out there, those of us who took to the phone lines this morning condemning the government because they took too long to do it. The fact of the matter is, the road has to be closed. In whatever stage the government was going to do this, it had to be done anyway. I hear them talking about the Mount Morris Road and the traffic that's going to be on the Mount Morris Road and so on. Even if the government had addressed this in the earliest of stages, the road still would have had to been closed. So we have to know what we want as a people. We have to close the road anyway, whether they addressed it as a crack, whether they addressed it as a hole in the road still has to be closed. So this talk about the Mount Morris Road not being able to handle the traffic and all of that, it's not even a conversation we should be having, because the traffic would have to be diverted either way. So look at the thing objectively. Let's stop playing politics with these things. These matters that are urgent, that need to be dealt with, and that are being dealt with as we speak. But there's so much politics being played that we forget to look at things from both sides of the coin. So again, I'm glad that no lives have been lost. I'm glad that no further damage has happened. I'm happy that the government is addressing the issue with urgency. You know, because that's my little side of the rock. So I'm happy. But I'm not going to sit down because I have a voice and bash the government because they're being reactive in your opinion. Whatever stage they would have addressed this issue, it would have been reactive because they have to react. A problem must occur for them to react. Should the government have just assumed that the road was going to have an issue and they would just dig it up? You know, so we have to be careful. And I hope to have the Minister of Infrastructure on the line very soon to speak with us as it relates to this issue, what is going to happen going forward, and what we can do as a people to really help. You know, I know that the traffic for the next few days is going to be a bit heavy in my area. But as a patriotic Grenadian who wants to see the issue resolved and wants to see the issue resolved quickly, I don't mind having a few extra trucks and cars and buses passing in front of my doorstep. You know? Because whether it happens or not, the road has to be fixed. Whether you choose to pass through Grenville Vale, you choose to pass through Mount Morris, and those of you in St. Patrick choose to come over the hills, whatever route you choose to take is up to you. But we have to be careful as a people in the things that we say and what we put out there, you know? And I just felt like I had to come and say this morning because I sat listening to a lot of people ranting and raving. But let's look at the Marist Hill issue. When the road in Marist Hill broke or there was the issue in Marist Hill, everybody who could took to the radios and made all this noise about the displacement of traffic and government could have fixed this issue long and Nawasa, and they went on and on and on. But how many of us went back and said, thank you for the timeliness. Thank you for the long hours that the public servants who are attached to the government of Grenada would have worked to ensure that this issue was resolved as quickly as possible. How many of us did that? I mean, we are quick to condemn. We are quick to open our mouths and say all sorts of things about the government, who, by the way, must I remind you, is not just 15 representatives. So don't think that when you go and talk about the government on radio, you're talking about just Dr. Mitchell or just Minister Gregory Bowen or just these people. You're talking about a system that comprises of public servants who support NNP, who support NDC, who don't support anyone at all. You have a system of people who, if they choose, can undermine the current administration. If they choose, can work to solve issues in Grenada in a more timely manner. Who, if they choose, cannot work at all. And then the country would be on standstill, because we have to realize that the government is not 15 people. That when you go on public fora and you make a lot of noise about the government, you're not talking about NNP. You're not talking about the 15 representatives. You are talking about a system of people. So we have to be careful about what we say and how we say it, and on what forums we go and talk about it on. It is important that we share our views. It is important that we are vocal as Grenadians. Yes, it is important for us to be patriotic, but it is also important for us to not just be one-sided. You know, and I'm joined in studio this morning by Mr. Bola. You know, I asked nicely this morning I didn't beg. I asked nicely, and I only asked once. So I'm grateful for the fact that he's here. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Ms. Duncan. Good morning to everyone out there, our listeners, our contributors. We're happy to be coming to you live again for another day, and we value your contributions as per usual, your questions, your comments, sometimes your information. We are happy to have. So,
yeah. So, Mr. Bola, this morning I'm trying to be very, very woosah. Just nice and calm and not get all up in my emotions and not be too passionate, because there's so many things that I want to talk about, so many things that's been going on between last night and this morning, and I just feel like we must be mindful as Grenadians, to not just be vocal about the negative, but also be vocal about the positive. How is it that I'm not hearing people talking about the eradication of the latrines for people who so desperately need it? How is it that I'm not hearing people talking about the so many opportunities that are going to become available in agriculture? How is it that I'm not hearing people talking about how the Imani program has benefited so many, or that the Empower program has taken so many young men off of the block and into being productive young people?
So if I am to attempt to give a response to what you're asking, Ms. Duncan, I would start by saying, you're young, in case people didn't know that. I want them to know that you still lack a bit of experience that you would accept and admit, so that's why I can say that.
Yes.
And so when you would have become as aged as I am, and you would have passed through the many battles that I would have been through, you would recognize that people are aware of some of the things that you just mentioned. The latrine eradication program, how much money is in the budget for scholarship, how much money will be spent in agriculture, what will be done, the programs that are available. People are. But by nature, because we are a people who always feel that we should be on the receiving side of things, we are a nation of people with a cultural sort of ingrained culture in us that the government has a responsibility for providing everything for us from the womb to the tomb, or as Miss Jacob said the other day, from the cradle to the cane. We seldom speak about what we can get, what has been achieved, what is available for us, and we oftentimes speak about what is not happening, what is not there, what we did not get, what the government did not speak about, what the government did not do, because our hopes and dreams are that every single thing. We behave sometimes, or most of us, let me qualify it by saying, most of us as nationals of this country behave as though that government has the sole responsibility for everything that must happen to us. We have absolutely no responsibility. Hence the reason I believe we are never going to talk about what is done or what will be done or what is good about what was done. We are always going to find the areas for complaining and complaining and complaining. And sometimes I wonder, is it really the fault of those who do it? Or is it the fault of those of us who are at the helm that are supposed to change those practices, that are supposed to get people to understand the operations of government, that are supposed to get people to become more responsible, and as we spoke about the other day, to be more creative in their thinking, to look at and for the opportunities that are available and utilize them to our benefit. No, many of us, for the want of getting into office, because we all are struggling to be at the helm, all of us or most of us are fighting to be the chief. Yeah. We take very little time to concentrate on the Indians. All we want to do is be chief, and by any means necessary. Hence the reason we have so much of these problems going around. People blame the government for everything. We know and the Ming. Sorry to divert into that. We have a responsibility as the people, as a nation, to pay our taxes. Sometimes we don't. Even taxes that we collect on behalf of the government that doesn't belong to us, we take it. And then we turn around and still blame the government and say the government shouldn't do this and the government shouldn't do that and the government should have sympathy and the government should think about the workers. But the government also has a responsibility for so many other things.
Yeah.
You talk about a piece of road that broke on, that they shouldn't allow it to happen. And we forget all of the conditionalities that have changed, about the climatic changes that have taken place.
Yeah.
That the fact that we're having sudden rainfall in times when we never expected it to. And that they can create for us more problems. All of those are things that we have to take into context before we start blaming. So the blame game is always on. The government is always wrong. Whatever happens, you don't have milk to put in your coffee, the government is responsible for that. Your car tire puncture on your way to work, the government is responsible. Because if they had patched the hole in the road, my tire wasn't going to puncture. You didn't get your pay increase on time, the government has to be blamed. Or the healthcare system, the government is being blamed. And the government is trying. And I'm saying they're not perfect. And I'm not saying that you should not raise your issues and concerns. But I'm saying we have to be cognizant sometimes of the things we see, how we see them, and where we see them. Because your expectation is that government do everything for you. You take no responsibility. And then you still turn around when the government takes the measures that they should to ensure that they can get the resources to do some, and I must say some of the things that you are requesting of them to do, because there's no way they'll be able to do all. You're still angry with the government for taking the steps they take because some people do not want to accept responsibility. And it's something that we really have to see start changing in our people.
Absolutely.
We must take responsibility for our lives, for that of our families, for the actions we take. We should expect certain reactions, negatively or positively, and we must be prepared to deal with them.
Yeah.
We can't be blaming all the time another person and throwing it in the lap of the government. Oh, the government is the government, that as though the government is some big tree that is standing there and you can just go and pick a leaf off it anytime you wish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
But
That's not the way
also,
it is.
Mr. Bowler, when they say government, they fail to realize that government is not just 15 people.
15
It is
representatives.
the absolute entire system that governs the country. And that system, as I always say and will continue to say, that system encompasses all walks of lives of people in Grenada. Whether you support this administration or you support another administration, it doesn't matter. Government is the system. It's not 15 representatives. And I mean, that's what we fail to realize, and which is why we go, and we spoke about this last week. It is the hate. It is a lot of times, it is just the hate for that one man who has dedicated so much of his life. And I want to read something here that someone in the diaspora would have posted recently. And I'm going to read it for all Grenadians who have not had an opportunity to see it, to hear. And it says, "I am so sorry to see the bad things written about our Prime Minister. Everything that goes wrong in the country, even those he has no power over, he gets the blame.
Certainly.
A man who has dedicated his life to improving his country. A man who by himself stood on the street corners of Washington, D.C. with signs trying to gather support from the American government to return democracy to Grenada. A man who spent of his own money traveling all over to gather support for a country few knew of and cared about. He could have abandoned his love of country and ran his consulting firm and lived the American dream. But no, not this man. He continued to knock on doors even after they were closed in his face. Look at the country he governs today. I am not saying all is roses. What I am saying is that he has brought us a long way. I understand that Grenada has little money. For we are burdened by external debt. But just as he fought for a democracy then, he fights to see the country strive. I know I am not alone in my analysis, for the last election saw him win by a landslide. The majority of Grenadians spoke, and we should all respect that. This is what democracy is all about. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell, for your continued service to the nation of Grenada.
Well said. Well said. Case in point, we spoke about it last week, about the dedication of this man, giving more than half of his lifetime on earth to service to this country. And I remember very early when I became a member of the party, I was told of that story during the era when the revolution went bad, that Dr. Mitchell single-handedly, without any support, without anyone, stood on the street corners in Washington, D.C. with his placards, begging the Americans to do something about bringing back democracy to Grenada. So sometimes people look at the man without knowing the history, without knowing the struggle, without knowing what he has been through, without understanding what he has given up.
Without caring.
Even caring about that, because this is not a gentleman who just came to Grenada, as he once said, looking or hunting for a job. He had a well-paid job. He had a consultancy firm. He was working with a lot of huge business people. He was working with the State Department. He was working with the university. So he's doing well for himself and his family.
Yeah.
But he felt that his country needed him at that time. And he abandoned all of that to come back to work for his country. And sometimes I say, even if you do not like the individual for whatever reason, please be appreciative of what he did for our country and he's still doing for our country. Now you would have your day to speak and to make your choice. This is a democratic state where within every 5 years, every electoral cycle, you have an opportunity to do what you think is going to be best for your country.
But you know, Mr. Bola, I'm looking at the hypocrisy in it all, simply because they're not going to do what they're saying should be done, you know. And you know why? Because they know if they do that, what will happen. They've experienced it. They don't have to think about it or dream about it or imagine what the country would be like with another political party or the other political party at the helm. Because they know. We've all experienced it. We've been through it. It's like saying, well, we've been through Ivan, but let we ask him to come back. Maybe this time he won't be as bad. But we know the damage he's done before. You know, it's the same kind of thing. So we stand up and we say, give another party a chance, or they're not doing nothing for the country, or we make all of these statements. Not in ignorance of the fact that if somebody else comes, they're going to do complete and utter nonsense, but just because they have a hatred for this one man. You know, it has nothing to do with how the country is being run. It has nothing to do with the programs that are being implemented. It has nothing to do with the status of life of Grenadians. It has nothing to do with that. It has only to do with the fact that they believe that he must not be there. That they believe that somebody else must be at the helm.
Understood. Your analysis is on point, because we can't find any other justification. Because with all of the accusations and all of the character blasphemy and damage that they're trying to do is against that individual.
Yeah.
Yes? And with no facts. They're baseless. Up until this day, no one can come forward and say, here are the evidence of the wrongdoing. I mean, come on. Like I say, you don't have to like him. You don't have to vote for his party. But be a man. Be mature enough as a good patriotic Grenadian and accept that a lot has been done under the stewardship of this gentleman, Dr. Mitchell. A lot is still being done. Our country is being transformed. Our country is being seen in a positive light because of his endeavors, because of his willingness to sacrifice and to make sure that Grenada becomes a better place for every Grenadian. Not just for some. Some people give the impression that he's fortifying Grenada for himself and his family. That is not the truth at all. It is about making Grenada better for every single Grenadian. Look at as you so rightly say, I mean, the budget just went. But several other policies, directives that has been given even before budget. The NHI. Is NHI going to benefit only Dr. Mitchell and his family? Will it only benefit his mother or his son? It's going to benefit every Grenadian once it is implemented properly.
Yeah.
That is why there are consultations. That is why you have a team now looking at the do's and the don'ts, the advantages and disadvantages, what we should and shouldn't do, looking at the experiences of other countries that has implemented NHI. What were the setbacks? What were the lessons learned? Because we want to do it well to make sure that the entire population benefits from the implementation. Yes?
Absolutely. And you know, I have sat and I have analyzed something. And I'm sure you listen to the same radio program that says that government is reactive to a lot of situations. But you know what, Mr. Bola? We as a people in Grenada are reactive too, you know. We are very reactive because, and you know what's funny? We are only reactive to negativity because it only takes something negative to happen in Grenada for our voices to be loud. For us to come out of all different corners and bash government and bash this policy and bash that policy. But once the policy is working and it's moving smoothly, nobody has anything to say. So we too as a people are reactive. We can't just blame government, you know.
We don't even have a thank you.
We don't even have a thank you. You know, and I know some of us may sit there and say, oh, well, we shouldn't say thank you because that is their job. Guess what? A lot of people in Grenada doing their job. The police doing their job to keep us safe. But that doesn't mean that we're not supposed to say thank you and show appreciation and show gratitude. The nurses in the hospital, they're doing their job. The doctors, private or public, they're doing their job. That does not mean that we are not supposed to be appreciative. That's no excuse for the disrespect. It is no excuse. You know, I gone through social media the other day and looking at people calling the man Keith and getting on with all sorts of nonsense. And I had to say, no, this is disrespectful. Because it's funny that, right, you would go into your job and call your boss, sir, ma'am, Mr., Mrs., pastor this and pastor that. You attach the respect that is due to these portfolios. But you want to call the man that continues to sacrifice, that stands at the helm of, that is the face of the country that you live in, by his first name, and make all sorts of derogatory statements about him. I dare any of you to go into your workplaces tomorrow and call your boss by their first name.
Well, not just only the first name, but some of the other derogatory pronouncements that does be made. You know, it just speaks volume to who we are as a people. You know, how we sometimes are not standard with what we do. Because the expectation that we have for some, we don't have it for the others. What is seemingly correct for one person to do, done by another person, it is totally wrong. And we cannot continue to be that way. Right will always be right, is irrespective of whom would have done it. Wrong would always be wrong, irrespective of who did it. Yeah. And we have to accept and appreciate that. And we have to show respect. And we have to show ourselves of being proud as a people for what we are receiving.
And I'll ask the person that's trying to call us could you, and that would be Mr. Otley, could you just hold up from blocking the lines for just a moment? We're not taking calls just yet. The minister is trying to give us a call. So could you just clear the lines so that he is able to do that, please? All right? We're trying to get a call from the minister. So if possible, Mr. Otley, we're going to open the lines a little later on for you to call us, but just clear the lines so that the minister can give us a call and give us a little bit of insight, because from what I understand at this point, he's up there with some engineers and they're looking at the situation and to see what needs to be done, because it's not just about going up there and putting a wall, you know, and I think that's what we don't understand. It's about doing an assessment to see what needs to be done. Maybe the road might have to be condemned. We don't know. You understand? We are just overnight engineers, just making speculations as to what government should have, could have, and has to do, you know? But we don't know what needs to be done. Maybe the engineers might be there and they may say something different. And we do have the minister on the line at this point. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty okay for the time being.
Wonderful.
Hectic, but we're doing what we have to do.
I know. I thought it absolutely necessary this morning that you add your voice to this issue that has been tumbling all morning and all into last night as it relates to the road, which I'm told that you are on the scene of right now with your engineers doing an assessment to see exactly what needs to be done. Can you give us a little insight into what's happening?
Yes, well, the scene with the engineers, they have left the press. Most likely GS has just left. GBN called, but I don't know if I haven't seen them, on site. We have been here for the past weeks with the engineers. But I want to tell the listening public, the problem at Molyneux is not so much the road. Molyneux is a slippage zone, and you have a lot of private homes and private properties also involved. When you build on a plane where you have one type of soil above and another type of soil below, could be mud and rock, could be gravel and rock, you have that slippage plane. And this would have been there, quite a while. So let me tell you as far back as we started preparing for this. When the Prime Minister of the UK, then Mr. Cameron, the Honourable Cameron, came to the region, he made some grants available to various countries, Jamaica, etc., and Grenada. Grenada's grant is about $28 million US. Of course, he will give in pounds, but the pounds fell a lot. So at one time, the grant was valued even in the 30, and as the pound dropped, now its value is 28 million. And we undertook then to apply this grant to Nawasa, the water system, and to the slippage zones on the Western Main Road. If we come from St. Patrick coming through to St. Mark, there are areas that are slipping. As we come through St. John, there are areas that are slipping. And as we come into St. George, Molyneux is one area that has been slipping for a while. So all of these locations are down to be done, significant geotechnical study, soil tests to be done on these. As a matter of fact, we have shortlisted the consultants. When you have grant monies, you can't tell the people, come and work tomorrow. You must go through a bidding process.
Right.
So we have shortlisted consultants of high repute to undertake this. What will happen very shortly is that you will see a consultant here with equipment. Those of you who remember Mr. Taylor from Lassos, I think he lectured to us at WI. He's one such expert. He may have retired by now. But you'll see a lot of drills going down, deep down, to tell you what is below, the type of soil at the various levels before.
Right.
So, even if we decide that the road cannot go back where it is, that we have to buy properties and cut a road way back from the beginning of Molyneux towards the northern side, so that we end up, way past Grand Mall, that could be done. The study might say that. However, what will happen to the people in the area? It is now a NADMA problem as well. So we could remove the road and the ministry remove the road and get rid of the road. But you have people with property and their buildings will move with the slope. Right. So whether you repair the road or not, whether you shift it a little to the right or left, depends on which direction you're going, whether to town or to go off. And they ask, why don't you cut the top of the road? Now we see a beautiful set of tires. And those tires, they are an innovative way of preventing the top, which is a different gravel soil, from coming down. If you remove it, then you may build a big retaining wall. But if that slip plane is much lower, as low down, you might maybe 300 feet, right, could be that slip plane. That is what the consultant will tell us. And I want to recognize the people in the area. They did not only wait on the ministry, they work with us, but they have hired a private engineering firm to work with them to tell them if the property will last, how long it will last, and so forth. So they may be able to do a quick study. Right. I doubt they have the capacity to do the study that the ministry will do. Our study now would not be only for the road. Our study will be for the entire plain to help the people in the area. NADMA might have to give them a directive that they must move out from the area based on the study that we will do. So our study will not be limited to where the road is or where it should pass. Right. So to those who were saying that, it is reactive, and we reacted many years ago. When did Prime Minister Cameron came? Well, he was 15 or 16. Yes. Since that time, we were reacting by ensuring that we get the funds. And this will cause a significant amount, This is not a normal road problem. Yeah. Yes. And we have, at this point, noted the quicker pace of deterioration in the roads. And as such, we have stopped the traffic before anything can happen with respect to the house moving and so on. So we replace the road. We put it in a different place. Mm-hmm. And everybody is happy because they can go up and down. What will happen to the people in the area? So we are working with NADMA in an overall big project. And the same thing will happen up to the north, Wherever they're building, we're not only looking to repair the road. We're looking at slippages along the line. Right. So this is not an issue that we lay back upon. It's very costly. And people must remember the economic plight that the country was in. So we were very happy for the grant. And it takes time. You have to advertise. You have to do this. You have to do that, sign this, the other. So now the grant is there. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy that we have shortlisted the consultants already to get this done. So we just put them to work now.
Yes, Minister.
And we hope, and we'll ask them to speed it up. We'll work with the Caribbean Development Bank, through which the UK government has channeled the monies, and to ask them to cut down on all sort of the rules. You have 30 days before you could give something. We can ask them, can you make it 20? You have 48 days before you do something. The rules of the bank and fund, we can ask them, can you make it 20? Because of the problem that we have seen. So that, in a nutshell, is the area that we are concentrating on now. And it is not an issue of you just saw this, they just did that. If we had just taken on the situation, we would not have had consultants in place. We would not have had money from the grant allocated to do this. Right. And the consultancy in this case, normally consultancy will be less than 10% or 15% of the project. Mm-hmm. In this case, with all the geotechnical studies, you find consultancy reaching 25 and 30% of the project. A lot of work that has to be done. So I hope this will shed some light.
Yes, Mr.
on what is happening here.
Mr. Bola has a question for
you. Yes, Minister, I'm here too. I'm co-hosting this morning and happy to have you on here. Just two quick questions for you. Because one, you hear a lot of the callers, who become, as we say, overnight engineers and have all the answers, saying that years ago a project like that would have cost 100,000 and the government.
Wait, what? Just if you're coming over very low. I don't know if it's the connection.
Maybe my mic. I shall repeat. I say okay. I am co-hosting. I am very glad that you are here giving some explanation.
Oh yes. I'm good to have you. So I didn't recognize you because, as you know, I'm outside and I didn't know you were there.
Right. There are two quick questions. One, you can give a response to that because you're hearing callers on the various talk shows and so, because everybody now becomes an engineer and an expert about what should and shouldn't be done. And one person called saying, oh, well, they understand about 5 years ago, if that same work was done, it would have cost about 100,000 and what have you, and that. I mean, if you can share some light on that. But secondly, looking futuristically, as you mentioned, and I did say that to someone, land slippage, climatic conditions are changing, the level of rainfall is different to what it used to be 10, 15 years ago. As we look into the future, are we going to put measures in place to ensure that in terms of building, I know we have building codes, we have the planning division, but where and how people excavate as it relates to close to the road and the road network and these fall edges, and so in terms of putting buildings, are we going to look into tightening those kind of legislations and policing it better so that we don't have this ad hoc kind of excavation taking place that can trigger a slippage and things like that? I don't know what answers you can give to those two concerns.
Well, certainly, and just before I answer that question, I just want to tell the public that you were there when Prime Minister Cameron came.
Of course I was.
Yes, you were part of it. And when we designed the project to deal with slippage along the Western Main Road, that's why we call it UK 6 Western Main Road.
Yes.
The United Kingdom Climate Infrastructure Fund.
Yep.
And as you rightly says, there's great deterioration based on climate change.
Yep.
And that is why we could have used the monies for that, because we showed them that it is because of the climate change problem that we have rapid deterioration along the coast. I mean, some of these things were built since the 16th century?
Yes.
And you just saw, maybe 10 years ago, you just saw things moving. So obviously, that's an area that we work on. But with respect to the laws, you also, I think, know was there when we passed the 2016 Physical Development Act.
Yes.
So we are moving in a manner, and it's because of this act too that we were able to attract the fund or get the approval to use the fund in these areas. It gives the planning division special powers. And while we were talking, and people could see this, you run and you do something in planning, and they put you before the court.
Yes.
And you're there. Right now, the 2016 Act has removed that. The planning authority has a lot of more powers in implementing the proper things to do. So yes, you will see that even the structure of the authority will now change. And I think the public now, they will not take you to court when you ask them to move. Yes, they will move, because people will now see what has happened when some people build in certain areas. Sometimes, yes, we lapse, but there are sometimes when the officers will go to the people and they tell them, don't come into your yard, move away from here. In fact, we met some of it just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
So yes, with that act there, we'll pass the proper regulations to ensure. But passing acts and regulations, is one thing. The response of the people to it, like I say, they tie you up in courts for 2 years and so on. But now, with this particular project, and remember, the consultants will not be only doing Molyneux. They'll be doing up in St. Mark's as well.
Yes.
And they'll be doing along the Western Main Roads in the Concord area. So when people see and hear the result, that will publicize and say, this is what the results show. And I believe if they start with the satellite imagery, you can't tell them how to do their work, but if they do, we could get, a good indication of what is under there. Yes, and I'll encourage them to start with that. Yeah. And this project is going to be a big project because it is not roads, but it's a national disaster, NADMA project, going up on the western side as well, because the roads did not deteriorate there. We have the similar problems there.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have planned for it. So when we spend the $16 million of the $28 million we gave, that was 12, and we have 16 here, we have to look for another 30 million. That's US I'm talking about.
Well, that was my next question, whether or not that level of funding would take care of the massive kind of work that has to be done on the whole western zone.
Of course not. Right. We are happy, though, because of how we behave. That the GCF, as you know, will be spending $300 million US over a period in making St. George a climate smart city. yes, and taking out the flooding problems and so on. We hope too that we'll get another $100 million from them, and most of these are granted.
Grant money,
So
yes.
if we get some money to help us to go past what we are doing now. We are on a massive drive to prevent disaster from happening. And I want to commend the NADMA because they are here. And we brought in social services and NADMA to look at the private people's home.
Yes.
So it's not the roads only. We could quickly get a road, go out and buy the property and on top of the road, pay for 2 houses, pay for 3 houses, buy the lands. And maybe with a $10 million, we could get a new road.
A new road, yes.
Finish with it. Finish. What is happening here? The slip will continue, and all the homes will move.
Yes.
So we have to work with institutions around the world to say Molyneux is the first, but we expect more to happen up there. We hope it will not be as bad as this because the slip will not be, down to the sea where people will be, you're sure there'll be loss of lives there as it is in Molyneux. But as I say, excuse the voice. I think they flew want to attack me, but I thought it very important to, respond to some of the issues particularly when your program called me. GBN should have been here. They called, I told them I was on site, but they have not shown up. GIS is here, so I guess the information will be brought to the public in general. But it's good to let the people know.
Yes.
We planned for this.
Yes.
We planned for this a long while ago, and we have the funds to do the studies. Yes? And maybe a little bit of work.
All right.
So as we look to the budget now, NADMA will be working with us, and we're working with the GCF to see if we get another, $200 million to solve the project. We work on the Western Coast. That doesn't mean you don't have things over Grenada Town.
Yeah. Grenada Town and 1 or 2 places on the Eastern.
Yes, of course. So we have a lot ahead of us.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Minister, for taking the time out. To
No, you've gone low again, is it?
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you
Hello?
hear me? Hi, are you hearing me better now?
Yes, I'm hearing the lady now.
All right.
I'm not hearing you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out because I know you're very busy right now dealing with this aspect of this issue. But thank you for letting us know and letting the public know because information, of course, is power. So thank you so much for taking the time to call us.
You're welcome. I want to take this opportunity too, though, to thank the motorists again because Molyneux, not Molyneux this time, but Maras Hill. We asked them, we give them a specific time where we'll be back on stream, and we're all back on stream.
Okay.
But I want to remind them that we did say to them at the slowest period of economic activities, we will not so much as close the road, but put 1 lane in order to do the permanent retaining wall.
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
So we'll be working with the business sector, those people who haul containers. I think it is said that January is the slowest month.
Yes.
So maybe after the Christmas holiday, we may start.
I hope you can. I hope you really can so that you can get
Yeah, but we've told the people to your containers. Don't leave anything on the porch. Work with us, tell us have X amount of containers to come in. So we could keep it down to March. I mean, all the road is done there. It's a hold for years.
Yes.
Not completed. We want to complete and do the retaining wall. Just as we will be doing along the other road sections, we want to finish and do a proper job. So thank you for the opportunity, Brother
welcome.
And I think you could give them a lot of information yourself, Brother Gola.
Well, yes, I've been around.
Yes,
remember.
You know when we were discussing slips in certain areas,
Yes.
all along the line, yes?
Yes.
And all the members who traverse the western side,
Yes.
as opposed to those argued with you and the others who traverse along the Grenada Road.
Yes, I
Because
remember.
each one of us was saying, you have slippage here, there. Where would you tackle?
Yes.
And we thought Molyneux and the western side up the road to Jod was where we should put the funds, and they are there now. So it is a pity, as some people saying that when we react. Maybe as I heard Ms. Duncan saying, yes, we react. We have to see something perhaps to react. But it is not an issue where this thing was there and we have not been planned. I think the biggest advantage we have is we have the shortlisted the consultants already, so we could get them to move speedily on with it. And I know it will be difficult for the motorists, so I'm just asking you, to bear with us there. And we could have left the road open for a while. We just decided, working with the police, working with NADMA, and working with the others, and we got advice. There are some people, who believe, that they're engineer.
Yes.
But I'm going to tell you, a good engineer knows when you must do a proper study, and you alone can't sit behind your desk. You must go back into the engineering firm with all the computers, with all the modeling of the system before you could give an answer.
Yes. Well, you would know that because by profession you're an engineer yourself, so you know the kind of a work that has to go in. Because people think it's just about, there's a slippage, you go and you build a wall. And I know, not being an engineer, but from being around, it takes a lot more than that. As you say, the geotechnical studies, they have to tell you how the slippage is moving, where is best to put the wall, how you should shape it, what kind size of wall you have to build, and all those things. It takes time. It takes technical work, it takes behind the scenes work before actual construction can start. So we are very, very happy that you have made that point. We have to continue to repeat some of those things so that the general public would understand better, and we crave the indulgence of the motoring public in particular to understand what is being done. It is for better safety, not just for the motoring public, but as you say, for the residents who have to be considered and in some instances may have to be replaced and there's a lot on government hand to do. But Minister, I know there's a lot ahead for you. We thank you again very much for that. And we may be calling on you in the very near future to give us some more explanation, to give us some updates, and of course to keep the public informed.
No problem. And just one thing I want to mention, the professional engineers, if they give you something wrong, they have to pay the $1 million for the error they make.
Okay.
So they have to be correct.
Very
Thank
good.
you, and we'll keep in touch.
All
Definitely.
Right.
Enjoy your day today and the rest of the weekend.
Okay, thanks.
Nice.
Right.
All right, so you heard it there.
Yep.
It's what we've been saying, Mr. Bola. It's not just cut and paste as we think it is.
As some people think it is.
As
I have
some
never
people.
thought so.
Well, neither me, but I had to be general. I can't.
I understand.
I can't accuse you. It's not cut and paste. And I really am very disappointed to hear that GBN was not there, because it was on their forum this morning that allowed for some people to go on with these nonsense statements.
Well, a lot of speculations, and that's how we are as a people. They blame the government for being very reactive, but generally that's how we are as Grenadians. We hear about something, and everyone becomes an expert on the issue, on the idea, and everyone gives, as we would say in local parlance, they give the 2 pence. And sometimes you have to respect people and respect their views, but allow at times the voices of the professionals to speak. And of course, engineers have been. Listen, this issue about slippage is something that has been, since in my time in government, we've been looking at it, we've been talking about it. We've had, preliminary studies being done. I recall you hear Minister Bowen talking about the GCF, which is the Green Climate Fund, that Grenada has benefited some from already. Nawasa has been given over $100 million for pipe replacement and greater storage and things like that. It is through the Green Climate Fund, but we are only able to access those funding. They are planning now for a second project, the making St. George's the first climate smart city, right, in the region, building roads and dealing with all the slippages, and we're going to get more money from them. But why is that happening? Again, the Prime Minister and others keep saying, the Minister of Finance, that we must have fiscal discipline, that we must live within our means, that we have to adhere to the rules of the fiscal responsibility legislation. Because the people look at all these things. How are you living? How are you spending your tax money? Is your people compliant with tax to determine to give us money? I was in Peru. I then was the minister with responsibility for environment when the big launch of the GCF took place. So I have some background knowledge of a lot of those things, and I say to our people, if you have a little patience, and I know sometimes we can become impatient because we think something needs to be done and it must be done now. It doesn't just happen overnight.
But
Quite a lot has to happen.
But Mr. Bola, as we were speaking, and we'll get back to the details of what's happening here, because the minister would have given us a lot of information, a lot of technical information, because now it's not just about putting a wall, but it's about seeing the type of soil, how sustainable a wall is going to be. Do they need to move the road? Do the houses in the area need to move? you know. And it's I'm glad that he was the one to say it, because I didn't want her to say it. I mean, I know, but I didn't want to say. But
I know you was an engineer.
no, not the engineering part, but I know of situations where planning would have gone into people's properties and asked them or confronted them as it results to where they were building and their plans for building, and they would have blatantly told planning, no, don't come in my place. And as he said, planning can engage them. They can take planning to court for 2 years. That's 2 years of being in a situation and Grenadians saying, oh, well, where is planning? You know? So I'm glad that we now know what is happening. You know, it's not, like I said, it's not just cut and dry as it is. And we as Grenadians, we are responsible for a lot of things that happen in the country, because it's not just government, it's all of us. We all live here. We all benefit from the pie, you know, and especially with the issue of taxation that happened recently. And I want to read a comment, because you see, I think we don't do a lot of that here, which is something that I plan to change. A lot of objective Grenadians would speak their minds. They may not call into a radio program and say, you know, this is what I believe or this is what I think, but they post on social media a lot their opinions. And I want to read, I'm not able to read all of it because of you know, it's some of his opinions, you know, are his opinions, and I don't want us to it to seem as if that's the opinion of the station. But at the same time, I need to read some of what he has written. So he said that the government needs the taxes to pay for all of its services. Therefore, the people of Grenada suffer when people do not pay taxes and the government does not have the fund to provide the necessities. We, as the wider citizens, have to do without when people collect taxes on behalf of the government and do not pay it into the treasury. Keeping the funds is wrong, and we, the people, are the ones who suffer. On the other hand, the people who do not pay the money uses it in however way they wish, although the money does not belong to them. Who benefits? The company. Ordinary citizens also need to pay their taxes, which is license and so on, and obligations to the government. And we are prevented from exercising that privilege or even penalized according to law. For example, I cannot have a vehicle and not pay the relevant fees per year and expect not to be fined for driving. In fact, it is illegal to do so. My land taxes are paid every year and the interest goes up. We have obligations and we must keep them. So too must the business places, because they pass on all of the cost to the customers. You know, and it goes on to say that the workers who are affected must be paid. Or actually, let me go above that, because it's a very long post. I can't read it all, but I want to get the salient points. He says, I believe the government had an obligation to the citizens of Grenada to enforce the law of the land with regards to delinquent taxpayers, especially when it needs money for running the country. I also believe that it is the right of the company to close its doors whenever they choose. That being said, there is a fallout which has to be dealt with. The workers who are affected must be paid, and if it is a company that closed their doors, I believe that it has an obligation to the people. Right? Government must look also at the implications of the closure and, if possible, seek solutions to the problem. So I like this post because it's very objective. It looks at both sides of the coin. And this is just an encouragement to all Grenadians that we must look at things objectively, look at things from both sides of the coin and not just give an emotional input as to what we believe it must be. You know, but we have an obligation as a people. So the people in the area that are affected by this land slippage, it's not just put up a wall and the issue is fixed. We have to look at the wider issue. We are now learning about a slippage zone. So it's not just confined to that one little area where the land has slipped. Like I said, we Grenadians are also reactive because we are now only talking about this because the land has slipped. What about the other areas in the slippage zone where there has been no slippage as yet? They also need to be addressed, So we have to be careful as a people in what we put out there. We also need to look at grant funding. When we put all this negativity about nothing is happening in Grenada and nothing, the government also has to rally with these people to get grant funding. They must justify why they need this grant funding. And remember, grant funding is not a loan. It's money given to you. So how are we now supposed to have further infrastructure, further development? We're looking at $200 million, approximately US dollars, to fix that entire slippage zone.
The entire Western Coast.
Western Coast. And as time goes by, the price may increase.
It will, of course. Because the price of material, the price of labor and everything goes up. And sometimes people think, and they say, well, why didn't you do it when it was cheaper? But if you didn't have the money when it was cheaper, you can't do it.
You can't do it.
And if you take the money to do it, they say, well, why didn't you use the money in health instead? And then you use the money in health, and they say, but the road is breaking. So we keep talking on this program about the one pie.
Yeah.
It is the same size.
Same size.
It hasn't grown. And there are competing areas for it. And sometimes as government, you have to determine at any one time, in any one day, in any 1 month, which and what is priority to be taken care of at this particular time. And where else can you get to add to that pie that you have?
And not only that, we have to be mindful of the fact that if a grant is given for a certain project, government can't say that they take in the grant and put it into healthcare. If a grant is given for repairing the airport, then guess what? You had to use it on the airport.
But not just a grant, It could be a loan too.
It could be a loan.
If you sign up with a particular institution that gives a loan for a particular project, the expectation is that the monies be used for that project. The only money government can move around is money for what is called budgetary support.
Yeah.
So if you get a grant and it says for budgetary support, then it goes into your budget and you can use it wherever you think is best suited to use. But once it's specific to a project, that's where it has to be used. Once a loan is specific to a project, that's where it has to be used and accounted for.
And it's sad. I mean, we continue to make the same mistakes. And I mean, we probably will continue to make the same mistakes as time goes by. But this is why we are here, to appeal to the people. We have to do better as Grenadians. We have to do better. We continue to make the same blunders all of the time. Because you know why? We're reactive too. An issue must occur in order for us to say something. Why are we not talking about the slippage zone? Because nobody know about the slippage zone. They didn't make it their business to know about the slippage zone. And I'm sure that it was talked about. But we didn't make it our business to remember. But we are reacting to a problem that is currently happening. That's what makes us reactive. Government can't just go and say we're going to dig up the road in Montmaris because we expect that there's going to be a problem in 10 years with no proof of there being a problem, So, yes, you could say government is reactive, but in some cases they have to be.
But the issue is that government was aware. We know that that zone is suspect to those kind of things. Yes? However, you have to do a lot of internal planning, and that was taking place. That is why they can react at this time, because the issue has been exacerbated. The movement has become much quicker. There was a feel that, look, we may be able to deal with that issue before it worsens. But, of course, we are not the controllers of nature. Nature has its own timing and does its own thing. So it has moved quicker than we thought it would. But the planning for it has been taking place internally. The engineers were shortlisted and would have been coming on site. Even if that did not happen, they would have been here because the plan was that by 2020 work would have started on some of those things. So
we have our first caller on the line for the morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I'm so delighted to hear Mr. Bowler and you, Ms. Duncan. I mean, this topic, what is going on about that place. But I like to say a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
Here in the U.S., the people always have town hall meeting with the environment around, whatever they are doing and whatever, and to get people input, and the nation is aware of what is happening. You always see the ad came up on the TV, they're having the town hall meeting in Westchester, if they're going to put a park or something. So what I'm saying is, information is very much lacking home, and that is not good. And when Mr. Cameron came, yes, we heard about all the grants, yes, but then things should be followed, although it's taking time, things should be following up throughout the surrounding areas, have town hall meeting with the people, say what is in the pipeline. So all this controversy about government in care and whatever, that should not be, because they always say people perish for the lack of knowledge. People is very unaware what is under the surface working to help. We appreciate all what is about to do, but I think, Ms. Duncan, that we are lacking information. Right. One other thing, Mr. Bowler, if you listen to those guys and WeiFM inserters, I listening to them this morning, and DJ is saying a lot of things. And I post up on my WhatsApp that they should meet for I've listening to these guys since they're over 5 years, and they keep talking one story over and over. We're not getting anywhere. Mr. Bola, you were in agriculture. Listen to DJ. Hear what they are saying.
BJ, up on Real FM. Yes. Right, BJ. You keep saying DJ, and I'm wondering who you're talking about.
Yes. And he's talking about they want to bring in the banana plant. Was a survey done? Where they go sell the banana? And he's saying to them, no, they need to do proper planning. But you know what? I have learned, when people are in authority and they want to just do what they want, we up for failure. And he said, he and Mr. Bridgman, we should pull in Mr. Bridgman. He's very knowledgeable. Pull in Mr. Bridgman maybe to be an advisor. I don't know if all you have to pay him or you don't have to, but he is a good man, could volunteer all his ideas to help us.
Well, he does it very well, you know. He expresses himself all the time, and we hear
him.
We hear
Mr. Bola, we wasting time back home. I'm here, and we know because we're talking about them nurses, but we money is not enough. But because we circumcised, we understand that.
Yes.
You know, but we need to take steps to inform people what is happening. There should be no chalala now. People should be properly informed about what was underneath the service to be done. Thanks, Mr. Boyne, for coming out now and saying that, but we need more of this. And please, Mr. Bowler, talk with Ms. Bain, get in DJ, get in Mr. Bridgman, and all this. Walk with them. Let's see if we could better that sector to move us on. I have some more to say, but it's enough for now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, my dear. We appreciate all that you would have said. And, of course, I would not disagree that we need to give more information. We need to give it on a more regular basis. But the whole issue about the land slippage and the project for the whole western corridor has been announced time and time again. Information had been given on it. As we have been saying, sometimes our people don't remember what was said. We like to react only when something is immediate. But that was spoken about. Since Mr. Cameron was here, that the funding is making available, where it would be used and why it would be used there and things like that. But I do agree with you. The more often we give the information, the easier it would be for people to memorize it and to remember.
But also, I want to add my voice to this. There's also another side of this, which is when government says we're going to have a town hall meeting, we're going to have a parish consultancy and so on. People don't show up. I can attest to that because I've attended several around the island. People do not show up. You know, and then we complain that information is not reaching us, as if government must come to our doorsteps, knock on our doors, and sit with us in our living rooms and explain to us. Maybe that needs to be the next step. But it's not that information is not reaching the people. It's reaching the people, you know. But the people are not meeting the information halfway. You know, they want it to come directly to them. So we have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sister Duncan. Good morning, Brother Bola.
Good morning.
Brother Bola, I listened to the Minister Boyle.
Yes.
And I also listened to you as a former minister. Okay, Sister Duncan is a youth. But what I didn't get from you or Mr. Boyle is about the amount of vehicle, what is on the road now.
Yes.
And with all this construction, and climate change. Just think about it. Before, go back, remember this place and then where we walk in now, today where vehicle passing was only a track. That's why it's so close to the seawater. Was only a track. I can remember as a little kid, I heard my grandparents talking about that. They walk from Guelph to town. Was only a track, and they had to use the seawater because it's closer so they could, like you've seen where you're going.
Yes, as the guide, yes. Yes.
You know? So now we become a state where so many vehicles, over 40,000 vehicles.
Yes.
All this construction is not only money we're going to go down, Mr. Bola. The whole country could go down. On each side.
Yes.
The western side and the eastern side. Because why? The western side more high, the water is further down. So that's why we have more problem there. Because remember, the pressure from all these vehicles, and I haven't heard you and Mr. Bola talk about the vehicle constant. We could have blocked this road 5 years ago, you know.
Yes.
Because we saw the danger, you know. We could have done it. But by, you know, we always like to give time and, you know, because we figure they go criticize this and they'll criticize that. You see? And look, they still come and criticize. So we just have to do what we have to do.
I hear you.
Because tomorrow, something might happen higher up, Mr. Bola. And you know what happened? You guys going to close the road. And you know what they're going to say? What you guys closing the road for?
Yeah.
So you can't write. You just have to do what you think is right.
Yes, sir.
And do not do things for people to like the government. Do things that people are going to respect the government.
Thank you for that statement.
Okay?
Thank you for that statement.
Mr. Bola, I always follow you a long time.
Thank you,
and
sir.
And you're very outspoken.
Thank you, sir.
You understand what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And I don't want you to change now.
No, I won't. I hope I won't.
All right, then.
I hope I won't.
Keep the ball going, and you guys do what is right for Grenada.
Thank you for your contribution.
What is best for the country.
Thank you for
that. Sister Duncan, don't get so hyper, because I realize when you're young.
Yes,
You know, relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay? You have your 2 kids going up at 3 or 4. I don't know how much.
5. Only 2 shares, right?
2 I have, 2.
Yeah, thank you for your contribution. And of course, we have the entire western main that is being looked at. So it's not just Molineux. It's a continuation way up into just under St. Patrick's. They're looking at the different areas, and we hope that the work will be done. And the caller is right. The number of vehicles, the size, the weight, and everything has an effect as well. Maybe not as much as the climatic changes and the land slippage, but they do impact because our roads are taking a lot more pressure now than they used to many years ago. So we hear you, and we thank you for that.
Yeah. So I hope a lot more people are enlightened as to what is happening in the area, and that we don't have, because I even heard the host of the program go as far as to say we can't do what we have to do for political gain and for favor, for not favoritism, but so people would favor our party more and so on. And I mean, I'm disappointed because as a host, generally, you do your research before. You know, I'm not going to come and sit in this chair in front of this mic and speak to thousands of people about something I know nothing about. personally, I would bring in the specialist. I can give my opinion, and that's fine because it's my opinion. And even still, I don't find it right to give my opinion on a public forum like this where thousands of people are listening without some information backing it, which is why we found it absolutely necessary to get the minister on the line this morning where he can give his voice to what's happening, because only he would know, well, along with the engineers and those in the Ministry of Infrastructure and so on, and also the residents in the surrounding area, because they're not new to this. This is something that they have known, We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. All right, caller, can you listen to us on the radio, on the phone, and not on the radio, right? So it's important, for us to be mindful of what we say and what effects what we say can have on the country. Good morning, caller. Hi, good morning.
I want to say that information is key. As Ms. Duncan said, a lot of people are calling on the radio, right? You have a firm in the village or in the constituency, and you ask them to come out to hear what the government plan to do. And Mr. Bola and Ms. Duncan, they will not come out. They will not come out to hear what the government is doing. But then when they hear something on the radio, or by the first time something, they believe it, and they will go on the radio and make comments. I want to say this government is a lot. Yes, there is room for improvement. Everything cannot be done overnight. Yes, the road will get fixed. And when you start to fix it and you block it, some people still comment over the block the road. They take it too long to finish the road. But I would say this government is doing a lot. And yes, you say the government only react when they comment. But yes, they better be reactive and never to be reactive. Right? And the more I do, the more the Minister of Infrastructure, Mr. Boyd, a hard working minister, he will get a road fixed. He'll let him tell at all. So Mr. Bola, Ms. Duncan, you all have one. God bless you.
You have a good day yourself, and thank you very much for your contribution.
Yeah. So, Mr. Bola, I also want to talk very briefly about another issue that I've addressed on this program as well. Let me take this call first, and then we can get into that. Good morning, caller.
Hello.
Hi, good morning, caller.
Good morning. I'm listening to your HARDTALK via the internet. I'm calling from New York, actually.
Can you lower the volume in the background, please?
Pardon me?
Can you lower the volume of your radio or computer in the background?
Yes. I walk away from the computer. But I'm listening to the HARDTALK program, and it's based on the road and the condition at Molinaire in St. George's. I just want to say that I have been there recently, and I saw this condition and the situation with the road. But my gripe about the whole situation is that time and again we heard that monies are being allocated for the alternate roads like Jones Road and Grenville Vale Road, which is coming in now as very accessible for the situation. Now, my concern is whether these by roads can withstand the volume of traffic that is now going to be the main thoroughfare to and from St. George's. I applaud the government for the efforts that they're making, but I think much more need to be done in regard to these roads. That Jones Road, I have access to it because I have interest, and I don't think that the traffic, the magnitude, the volume of traffic diverted into that road would sustain the road and its foundation. So it's a very, very concerned matter, and I think, along with the Molineux situation, I would really love to see these roads being enhanced, a lot more work being done on these roads. Because right now they're coming in very handy for the situation in Molineux. And time and again you hear in budget that monies are being allocated, and monies are being allocated time and time again. But nothing is being done with these roads. Nothing is being done. I have to say it. I mean, as much as I see the government is doing its best, and they're, I applaud what they're doing in certain areas, but these roads are very vital. And now we are seeing it. But enough is not being done with these by roads. So that's my take on things. I just would like to see much more being done on these roads, so that, like now where the situation in Molineux occur, it would be a smooth flow for traffic in and out of St. George's. Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, we thank you for your contribution, caller. We do appreciate all that you have said, but we'd just like you to know that the reason why those roads can now be used is because work has been done on them. And of course, the Grenville Road, not too long ago, has been resurfaced. There's been major works that has taken place on the Grenville Road. Maybe the other one, less work, but certainly the assessment would have been done. The traffic department would have been part of it. The Ministry of Infrastructure and Works would have been part of it. And it is simply because they know that they could be used and could undertake. That's why they are diverting the traffic in those areas. And we hear you. Maybe, yes, more could be done, but we constantly make the point that it is only a limited sum that is available. And you do as much as you can in every area. And sometimes some areas do have to get priority over the others. So we're not blaming you. We're saying, yes, more needs to be done. But we believe, and the officials who are responsible believe that sufficient has been done to accommodate the traffic that will be going through them at this time.
All right, we have another call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Duncan. Good morning, Mr. Bowler. How are you?
Good morning. We're well this morning.
Great. Is your discussion fixed based on the road today, or you could discuss anything else?
Well, we prefer to stay on topic, because especially at this hour, there's no real room to discuss any other topic.
Okay, all right, no problem. I'll do my. I was something different, but maybe next time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so I believe that the Ministry of Infrastructure would have looked at these roads and would have made an assessment based on their condition if they are able to take this level of traffic. And I know that a lot of people are concerned, about they're stating the condition of the road and if it's going to be able. But we will never really know, We can assume, we can speculate, but we'll never really know. And I think that they have put a very good plan in place as it relates to how the traffic is expected to flow. That means an increase in traffic throughout Mount Morris, something we're not really accustomed to. But hey, we have to make ourselves accustomed for that short period of time, do our civic duty. On how the traffic is going to run. I believe both access roads out of Mount Morris, out of Molineux into Mount Morris, are being used differently. One for exit and one for entry. So I'm not too 100% sure as to exactly how it's going to be used. But then you also have the Grenville Vale Road, which is in absolute wonderful condition to handle a maximum amount of traffic. So I think that once people follow through with the directions or directives given by the Royal Grenada Police Force Traffic Department, that we should have a smooth running. Because, I mean, even with the Maris Hill situation, on the first day it was a mess. It was.
A little chaotic.
And we expected that, but as the days go by, you'd find, we found that traffic started moving a lot smoother once the police started to get a handle on, on things. And once motorists as well got a handle on things. So, I mean, in order for change to happen, we have to expect a little inconvenience, right?
Well,
we have to.
I don't know if we should, but if you say so.
We have to expect a little inconvenience. We may not embrace the inconvenience, but we have to expect it. So we have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good afternoon, Miss Duncan.
Not quite afternoon yet, but I'll take it.
Yes. And good morning to you, Mr. Bola, and your listening audience.
Good morning to you, sir.
Yes. And I must say, Mr. Bola,
sure,
when it comes to growth, development, and change, it also carries with it a lot of inconveniences.
Yes, it does.
And because we are so accustomed to our easy way of life and having it our way, it creates a level of irritation, within us. But that's okay. And just like one of the previous caller would have stated his concern, the good thing is that, sir, is that we have a government in office that have created, the conditions, so to speak, whereby when these inconveniences occur, like the roads and things like that, we are in a position to navigate it financially and get it done. And yes, some of these by roads may not handle the traffic in the way it should. But at least maybe we will be in a position again to maybe fix this road after in a much better foundation and state. But listen to this, Mr. Bola and Ms. Duncan. I'm going to point out some projects here quickly. The Grenville Market, the Grenville Terminal, the Abattoir in Maribor, the Livera project, the Sotters Brickwater project, the St. George's Bus Terminal, the St. George's Cruise Ship and Docking Facility, and the Ministerial Complex. You know something? None of these projects had the support of the opposition. Now, let us look at it. If none of these things was done, then tell me where we would have been today. The hospital, the first phase and the second phase. Yes, some people will say power say this and power say that. But still for all, look at it today. When Mr. Timothy Antoine was selected to head our finance department, it did not have the support. They said, there was a young man, and things like that. And don't believe that he had the necessary qualities. Today, the gentleman is the governor of the ECCB.
Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, yes.
Just imagine, if none of these things was initiated and get done under this government, where Grenada would have been today. They have not been perfect. We know that. But there is no doubt in our minds that we could say that they have done 100% better than all those who are criticizing them today. Mr. Bola and Ms. Duncan, I trust you always have a pleasant day.
Well said, and we'd want to thank you very much, brother, for your contribution. What a way to bring an end to this program. Huh? There's, another minute or so for just wrapping up?
Oh, you'd like to believe there's another minute. There's 4 more minutes.
Oh, 4 more minutes. I thought it was another
But quickly,
minute.
Before we wrap up, there was a point I wanted to bring up, and maybe we'll get more into it tomorrow. It had to do with the monies that were being allocated. Well, not allocated. the gift that has been given to us by the Chinese government as it relates to the National Stadium and the repair, and the $13 million that everybody is so sure could go into something else. I want to advise the listening public that the government of Grenada is not getting a $38 million loan from the Chinese government. That's not what it is. The Chinese government has agreed, and we have spoken about this before, has agreed to do the renovations on the National Stadium. Much needed renovations.
I think it's the athletic, right? Not the cricket.
I'm not sure which one.
I think it's the athletic.
I have to verify.
Yeah,
but much needed renovations, because we are the same ones that have been quarreling and complaining about it. They have agreed to do that, which means that this $38 million, it will encompass them flying their people out to do it, right? You have to get the workers from China to come in to get the work done. You have to pay for accommodation. You have to pay for food, because they're going to be here for a while to get this work done. You have to pay for materials. So I don't understand, and we have said this before, that when somebody gives you a gift, right? Somebody gave you a gift card, let's say to go and get a massage, Mr. Bola, for $100.
And I want one now. I'd be so glad.
Somebody give you a gift card for $100. Can you be so bold as to tell the people you don't want a gift card for $100 to do a massage? You want a $200 gift card to buy a vehicle?
Well, I think it's easier than saying you don't want it. It's already given. It's already agreed upon. But you cannot transfer it now to bring your vehicle by the garage for repair and pay them with a gift card. The gift card is for something in particular. And I know it was explained on this program and several other programs that the 30th is the value of what is going to be done. So it's not like because somebody had raised before, why don't they take it and put it in healthcare? And it is not for healthcare. And we just earlier on explained that sometimes when you get a grant or sometimes even a loan for something specific, it has to be used for what was done.
Yeah.
So the Chinese is saying, we're going to send in the materials, we're going to bring in our people, our experts, whether they are electricians, painters, engineers, what have you. Yeah. We have to provide living accommodation for them. We have to provide food for them while they're here.
Salaries.
We have to give them their salary. We have to fly them to Grenada and fly them back.
Yeah.
Everything comes up to the tune of $38 million.
So it is not a loan. We have not.
It is not even cash in hand.
It's not even cash in hand. It is services. And I want people to understand that. $38 million in services. Are you now going to tell them to take the how much ever people that they're going to bring here and send them in the hospital to work because we need it in the hospital more? It doesn't work that way. We have to understand that.
You know what? Sorry for cutting into you. The people who are making these claims and are speaking publicly on it are people who profess to be educators, to be smart people. People who continue to say that they have the answers and the solutions.
Yeah.
And they're sensible. So I oftentimes refer to what they do as intellectual fraud.
Of course.
Because if they're saying that we are so intelligent and we know and we understand, why do you do that to the Grenadian public? Mm-hmm. Why do you continue to go on these talk shows and these forums and say those things that you know perfectly isn't the truth? Why do you sell to Grenadian that, we could be doing better? Look at the government is taking $38 million in loan that they could have spent somewhere else to repair the national. It is not a loan. It is not a grant in cash. It is services that will be provided for the maintenance and repair of a structure for our use that was provided to us by the Chinese government. They're now saying, look, we are not going to let it fall apart. We're going to repair it. We're going to maintain it. We're going to ensure that it stays in a good and perfect condition. Yeah. And what we're doing will come up to the value to the tune of $38 million.
So it's not $38 million cash in hand. And I want people to understand that. Because I know as soon as they can't talk about a road in Molyneux again, that's the next train they're going to jump on. So let's nip it in the bud. It is not $38 million cash in hand. The value of repairing and maintaining the National Stadium, which incorporates the cost of salaries, accommodation, food, materials, transportation, and even labor, is in the tune of $38 million, right? So if they were to give us, a matter of fact, if they were to give us $38 million and we had to pay people here to do it, The $38 million wouldn't make it, eh? It wouldn't make it.
Yeah, we might just stretch it. I think we're so badly off. We do have a few people that are not serious about productivity, but I have trust in the Grenadian people. I do believe that we are getting better. We are not where we should be yet, but I think we're getting better. We're coming to the understanding that for country, we need to do more. For ourselves, we need to do more. Of course, for our children and their future, we need to do more. And so I have the hope, the trust, and the belief in the Grenadian people that despite the detractors that are out there trying to make you feel that your country is not getting better and there's no betterment for you, that you know different, you know better, and you will continue to ride with the people who are making positive change and positive impact and continue to do what's best for our country. And what's best? Continue to vote and keep the new National Party in office so that you and your generation can have a better day. Thank you so much for listening to me for today.
And that is a wonderful way to end the program, guys. We are definitely out of time. It's always a pleasure being here with you in whatever you say and whatever you do. Be safe, be secure. We want to be talking with you and not about you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Stay up to and that's where I would with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
More than 8,000 cruise passengers arrive in Grenada on the busiest day of the 2019-2020 cruise season. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Wednesday, December 11th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. The Grenada Tourism Authority says the investments made in marketing the country as the ideal destination choice is reaping the benefits. 4 cruise ships called at Port St. George on Wednesday morning, bringing with them 8,300 cruise ship passengers, the largest number for the season in a day. P&O Cruises Azura brought 3,597 passengers and 1,226 crew. MSC Preciosa brought 4,345 passengers and 1,338 crew. Royal Clipper 227 passengers and 106 crew. And Windstar Cruises Star Legend 212 passengers and 153 crew at Burns Point. In total, the ship's capacity is 8,381 passengers.
We have 4 ships. We have 3 operating out of Melville Street, P&O Azura, MSC Preciosa, and we also have the Royal Clipper over at that end. Berthed at the Port of St. George in Burns Point, we have Star Legend. This is a bumper day for us. It's the most cruise visitors for the season so far. We expect in excess of 8,700 passengers on Boxing Day. And this is a fantastic day for all Grenadians to put their, as we say, our best foot forward. We're noted as the friendliest people, not just in the Caribbean, but in the world.
That's GTA's Nautical Development Manager, Mrs. Nicoyan Roberts. On December 26th, Boxing Day, the number of cruise ship passengers is expected to exceed Wednesday's total. P&O Cruises Azura will again bring 3,597 passengers and 1,226 crew. Fred Olsen Cruise Lines, 929 passengers, 371 crew members, and MSC Preciosa, 4,345 passengers and 1,338 crew members. In total, the ship's capacity will be 8,871 passengers. Mrs. Roberts says discussions are being held with the private sector to ensure shops will be opened and tour operators will be available to take the passengers to attraction sites on the island.
In addition to encouraging the private sector to open their businesses, because when the passengers come into Grenada, they understand it's our festive time, but they also want to see and do things while they're here. They don't just want to laze on the beach. So we have reached out to our stakeholder partners, private sector, and asked them to open your businesses so that the guests can have things to see and do. We've also worked with our tourism teams to ensure that when you go to the different attractions, there's a little bit of our unique culture that you can see taking place. You can see dancers, you can see short-knee masqueraders, you can see people, Grenadians, exposing their culture and enjoying themselves on Boxing Day as well.
The GTA Nautical Development Manager says the 2019-2020 cruise season started well, with benefits for all stakeholders in the industry.
It's been a good season. We're projecting that we will end the year a little better than last year, and this indicates our continued growth in the industry, and it also shows us that our marketing and promotional strategies are working as we generate new cruise business and new tourism business for our three-island destination. That's very important.
Grenada's Minister for Health, the Honourable Nicholas Steele, is sticking by a statement made at Tuesday's post-cabinet press briefing that discussions have been held with parties which are representative of the government and including the Labukan Creative Centre regarding training for nursing assistants. A subsequent posting on social media purportedly by Labukan basically refuted claims that it is in negotiations with the government for training nursing assistants in 2020. But Minister Steele, who was a guest on Wednesday's To The Point program on GBN, maintains otherwise.
I'm going to double down on that. And I'm going to say on or around the 14th of November, Labukan met with the chief nursing officer, who is a representative of the government of Grenada, met with the Grenada National Training Authority, who is a representative of the government of Grenada, met with the Ministry of Youth, who are representatives of the government of Grenada, and that somebody is misleading somebody. I've received a written report of that meeting. That report was used to go to Cabinet to get a budget. And we continue. And my statements yesterday, I still stand by my statements that we need to have a meeting with the 3 or 4 entities that have named their Ministry of Youth, Nursing Council, Grenada National Training Authority, and Labukan to finalize. So if those meetings didn't occur, then those public officers are misleading me and others in terms of where they went on that day and the meetings they've had and so. Or whoever posted that on behalf of Labukan is misleading the Grenadian public. So I'm doubling down on it and saying they did meet with Government of Grenada. I've named the entities or representatives that they met with, and I am asking them to refute that so that I can follow up with those public officers to say that those public officers are misleading the government of Grenada who they represented in discussions with Labukan.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and serve continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months and retired at age 60 may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Continuing the news, alternative traffic arrangements for the Western Main Road Corridor, Molyneux, will take effect in the coming days to facilitate geotechnical and engineering studies and design work on the road section between Montmorris Junction and Molyneux. This intervention is urgently required to address the land slippage in that area. Working with the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force, the Ministry of Infrastructure Development, Public Utilities, Energy, Transport and Implementation says effective Friday, December 13th from 7 a.m., heavy trucks will not be allowed to use the Western Main Road. All heavy trucks and trailers are advised to use the Eastern Main Road and other alternative routes. Effective Monday, 16th December 2019 from 7 a.m., all other vehicles are advised to use the Monkmorris Concrete Road to facilitate the traffic coming from St. John, St. Mark and St. Patrick towards St. George, and Jones Road to facilitate the traffic coming from St. George towards the western side. The ministry says the diversion of traffic will be in effect until further notice as it endeavors to enhance road safety in the area. These studies will commence in the coming weeks. The College Council at the T. Marisho Community College has made a new offer of $1.75 million, which it hopes unions will study and accept so that negotiations can continue towards a speedy settlement. Industrial action at the college is now in its 6th week and coincides with the end of semester exams and the advisement on course selection for the next semester that will prepare students to meet the academic requirements for their program. On December 6th, the council presented the unions with a formally written offer to pay the $6.1 million increment over a period of time. It proposed that the first scheduled payment be made on or before December 30th, 2019 in the sum of $1.5 million, and the schedule for the payment of the other tranches will be made by March 30th, 2020 upon the receipt by the council of the completed manpower and financial audit reports. In a statement issued on Wednesday, the council says this was rejected by both the Public Workers Union and the Grenada Union of Teachers, and as such, the industrial action continues. The council says it is committed to the payment of the increments in question, and all members of the council, both long-standing and new, are fully aware of the devastating effects it will have on national development if not properly managed. The government gives an annual subvention to TAMCC of $14 million. And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.